In the land of Ogwanta, where moonlight kissed the rivers and the trees held the memory of ancient secrets.
Leave me alone, what have I done to you? I don't want you to be my husband, please leave me.
That once danced playfully through the village now carried whispers, whispers that told the story of Adis, the girl whose soul walked between worlds. They had found her body by the river, lying still as stone, her lips pale, her spirit far away. For 3 days and nights, the people waited, some with fear, others with guilt. Ozoemena, her father, paced in silence. The gold he had once counted now felt heavier than the sins it was exchanged for. And Chinyu, her mother, sat by the river, her tears baptizing the ground, her voice hoarse from begging the gods, the spirits, and the ancestors to return her child. But Adis was not dead. No, her soul had traveled. She walked in a realm of mist and music, where drums echoed like heartbeats and voices came from the leaves themselves. She walked barefoot, dressed in a simple white cloth, and the air around her shimmered like early morning heat. Before her stood a woman, not old, not young, not of this world. Her skin was dark as charcoal, her eyes deep as oceans, and her voice, when it came, was a blend of song and sorrow. Child of the river, the spirit said, you were dragged into pain not of your making. But now, you must choose. You stand between peace and battle, silence and voice. Adis fell to her knees. I was never asked. I was never given a choice. I was sold like a goat. I was silenced like a secret. The spirit knelt beside her, cupping her chin with gentle fingers. And now you are found. But know this, the world you left is not ready for the fire your return will bring. If you go back, you must become more than you were. You must become truth itself. Adis looked into the spirit's eyes, and for a moment, she saw her mother crying by the river. She saw her father shaking with guilt. She saw the villagers whispering, accusing. She saw Ibuka, the man she was forced to marry, standing in the shadows of a curse. She stood. Slowly. Powerfully. I want to go back. Not for them, but for me. For the girl who was never heard. I will return. And I will speak. And so it was. Her body gasped back to life on the third morning. Villagers screamed. Some ran. Others dropped to their knees. Her mother embraced her with a cry that shook the leaves on the trees. My daughter. You have come back. But Adis was no longer the same. Her eyes were fire and water. Her voice was calm thunder. I saw them, Mama. The ancestors. They told me the price was wrong. The bride price was cursed. And we are all paying for it. Perfect. The sun had barely risen when the news spread like wild harmattan fire, Adis is alive. From one compound to another, the whispers turned to shouts. Children stopped their games, elders paused their chewing sticks mid-bite, and even the birds seemed to watch in silent reverence. Adis had returned, not as a fragile girl, but as something far deeper. Something blessed or cursed. The villagers gathered around her home, not to celebrate, but to stare. Some with awe. Others with fear. For in Adis' eyes, they saw something they could not name, a knowing, an anger, a light they didn't understand. The same elders who once forced her to undergo the river ritual now whispered behind their hands. She crossed to the other side. What did she see there?
My daughter, you
She
are
knew
protected,
her
no
mother
evil will
would not
harm
let her
you. The
out of
gods of our
sight.
land will not let you
She
to
fed
be
her by
ashamed.
hand, bathed her with water boiled in herbs, and prayed over her in the midnight hours. But Adis spoke little. Only her eyes told stories. Then came the day she asked for the gold. The very gold her father had taken from Chief Okafor as bride price. The gold that now sat in a clay pot, hidden behind the house, as if hiding it could silence its shame. Her father, Ozoemena, trembled as he carried it in his hands. Each coin clinked like a sin being counted. When he placed the pot before her, he could not meet her eyes. Take it, he whispered. Melt it. Burn it. Bury it. I don't want it anymore. Adis didn't speak. She simply opened the pot, looked inside, and sighed. These coins, they were never just metal. They carried blood. They carried silence. They carried fear. This is not just gold, Papa. It is what you traded me for. Ozoemena fell to his knees. My daughter. I have wronged you. I thought I was providing. I thought I was doing what men do. But now I see, I was a coward. I was greedy. And I broke you to fill my own emptiness. She didn't slap him. She didn't curse him. Her silence was heavier than any insult. Later that evening, Adis carried the pot of gold to the shrine at the village square. Villagers followed behind her, quiet, confused, curious. No one had done this before, returned a bride price. Not in this land. Before the sacred tree, she placed the pot. Then she knelt, arms raised. Ancestors of the river, she said, I return what was never mine. Let the curse find its source. Let the blessing find its way back home. As her words rose into the sky, a wind swirled through the square, lifting dust and leaves, sending shivers through every spine. The pot rattled. The tree creaked. And somewhere in the distance, thunder growled even though no storm had been seen for days. The priestess of the shrine, an old woman whose voice hadn't been heard in months, stepped forward. It is done, she said. The child has returned what the father took in blindness. The land will breathe again. But not all debts are settled. And with that, she turned to face the house of Chief Okofor. That night, the village did not sleep. Some stayed indoors, whispering prayers into their pillows. Others gathered in twos and threes, speaking softly beneath the palm trees, casting wary glances toward the home of Chief Okofor. It was no longer just a compound, it had become a shadow on the land, a place where even dogs refused to bark. Chief Okofor himself sat alone in his chamber, sweat covering his face despite the evening breeze. The gold he had offered as bride price still haunted his dreams. It was never meant to be just a marriage, he had made a transaction, a deal to bind Adis to his son, Ibuka, no matter her tears. And now, the deal had been broken. Returned. Something was coming. Something was watching. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed through his walls, not at the gate, but directly on the wooden doors of his inner room. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. He rose from his stool, heart thundering in his chest. Who goes there? He called, his voice cracking. There was no answer. Only silence. He flung the door open and found no one. But on the floor, right before his feet, lay something small and cold, a single gold coin, the same coin he had given Adis' father. On it was a thin line of blood, as fresh as morning dew. Chief Okofor staggered backward. The next morning, he was found lying unconscious, mumbling nonsense, eyes wide open and staring at the ceiling. No one could wake him fully. His servants had begun to flee. And Ibuka, his proud and boastful son, had not been seen since the day Adis rose from the dead. Some said he had vanished into the river. Others whispered that the curse had claimed him first. Back in her compound, Adis sat beneath the Udola tree, her face calm, her hands weaving fresh palm fronds. Women came to see her now, not as a victim, but as a voice. Young girls sat by her feet to listen. Older mothers brought gifts, not of gold or meat, but of blessings and respect. One girl, no older than 10, sat quietly and asked, Auntie Adis, why did the river choose you? Adis smiled, her eyes soft. The river does not choose who is strong. It chooses who has been broken, so they can become whole again. And with those words, the wind shifted again. The land was healing. But the wounds had not yet all been named. For across the village, an elder council had begun to gather. The people wanted justice, not just for Adis, but for all the daughters who had been traded like livestock. They wanted change. And change was coming. The elders sat in a circle beneath the great Iroko tree, the bark scarred by time, the roots wrapped around secrets. Each man wore a solemn face. Their staffs leaned beside them like ancient witnesses, and in the center of their circle lay the broken pot that once held the cursed gold. It had been brought there by the priestess, no word spoken, just a gesture. The message was clear, the matter of Adis was no longer just a family issue. It had become a mirror, showing the village who they had become. Chief Noji was the first to speak. He was the oldest, his beard as white as chalk dust, his voice low like a sacred drumbeat. Many moons ago, we used to bless our daughters before marriage. Now, we trade them. We've turned blessings into bargains. We have allowed the spirits of greed and silence to eat from our yam barns. And now, the land is vomiting it back. The others nodded. Some wiped their eyes, not from sadness, but from shame. Then, the priestess stepped forward. Her voice cracked like firewood in heat. Adis is not alone. There are others. Girls given like gifts. Girls who beg to be heard. Girls who carry their pain like wrappers they cannot remove. This village must confess, not with lips, but with change. A decision was made. The bride price law would be rewritten. No girl would be married off without her voice. No father would accept gold without hearing his daughter speak. And any man who took a woman by force of coin would be named, not just in the village, but before the gods. The news spread. Some cheered. Some resisted. But no one could deny that the tide had turned. Meanwhile, Adis walked quietly through the village. She visited the old widow who once fed her when her mother had no food. She sat with Neka, her childhood friend who had also been nearly given away to an old man. And she held the hands of a mother whose daughter had died in childbirth, married too young, silenced too early. She was not trying to become a hero. She was simply doing what no one did for her. She was listening. And then, one evening, a boy came running to her gate, panting. Adis. Ibuka has been found. He returned from the river. She froze. Her fingers clenched the fabric in her lap. Ibuka, the man she had been forced to marry. The man who had touched her without love. The man who disappeared like a ghost. What did he return for? The sun had just begun to set, casting golden fingers across the village, when Ibuka returned. He did not come with drums or greetings. No one walked beside him. No one sang. He came alone, barefoot, his clothes torn, his eyes hollow like a man who had seen what he could not unsee. Some ran from him. Others stared, wondering if he was man or something else. He went straight to Adis' compound. No words. No hesitation. Just a man, broken in silence, walking toward the girl he once claimed as his. Adis sat beneath the same Udola tree, her hands still, her breath calm. When she saw him, she did not rise. She watched. Ibuka knelt. Not like a man asking for forgiveness. Not like a husband begging for love. No, he knelt like a child before a storm. I went into the river, he said, voice barely above a whisper. I ran because I thought I could hide. But the spirits found me. They showed me your tears. They made me live your fear, your pain, your silence. Every night, I drowned again and again. Tears rolled down his cheeks, mixing with dust. I did not know what I was doing. I was taught that men take. That women must obey. I thought I was strong. But I was nothing. Adis looked at him for a long time. Then she spoke, slow and soft. You took something from me. And not just my body. You took my voice, my spirit. You crushed it with tradition, with pride, with blindness. I am not here to hate you. I am not here to punish you. But I will not carry you with me. You must walk your own journey now. Ibuka bowed his head. What must I do? Adis rose. Her voice was firm. Speak. Stand before the village. Confess. Not just for me, but for every girl whose story was swallowed. The next day, the village gathered. From the smallest child to the oldest elder, all came to the square, where the sacred tree stood in silence. Ibuka stepped forward. He told everything. The day he accepted Adis as a gift. The night he heard her cry and turned away. The shame he buried with laughter. The spirits who visited him with her screams. No one interrupted. No one whispered. And when he finished, He knelt once again and said, I am not here to ask for forgiveness. I am here to break the silence. A hush followed. Then, the priestess stepped out. She raised her hands. Today, the land has heard. And the curse has been spoken aloud. That is how healing begins. Adi stood at the back, arms folded, heart steady. She did not need applause. She did not need validation. Her story had been heard. And with that, the clouds shifted. A light rain began to fall, not harsh, not heavy, just soft drops that washed the dust from the leaves and the guilt from the air. It was not the end. But it was the beginning. A beginning for daughters to be honored. For bride prices to be blessed, not bargained. And for silence, to finally break. ZITA'S African Stories. The Cursed Bride Price. Let the past speak. Let the future listen.